ranking tends to allow it. And then, well, Nico Hülkenberg would want to forget this last section of the lap with the drag strip out there, pretty slippery. You got to keep it within bounds. The pace car is going to pull in, and that front row are going to get set for this rolling start. Steve Greenwood, Ragnar Wisloff, and Steve Greenwood in the black car. Your pole man has put power down really early, and he's left Ragnar Wisloff in his dust. They start to go single file behind him, but then there is still a lot of too wide as it narrows through the kink at turn 1. They head down towards turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 here. Tyre pressure still going to be building. Cold tyres at the start here, even with that little bit of formation lap to build some heat. And you can see, who was that? Was that Donald Poole, Bob Cohen? Somewhere there. Russ Addy actually struggling to put the power down. Big wiggle through there, and a lot of too wide behind him. The slipstream already in effect down towards the hairpin for the first time.
Yeah, certainly are. Bruce Poole, Steve O'Malley are together out there on track. Down into the hairpin, then most of them single file, although there is a little bit of contact, and that's the 14. That's David Riley, and then there's a huge concertina effect that's happened behind. One of those, 89 JC Hay, involved in all of that shenanigans. That's not what we wanted to see down at the hairpin, but unfortunately, you can sometimes predict that that will happen there.
Yeah, absolutely. The track is super wide, the car's coming in super fast, and then it narrows off at that hairpin because, of course, it does. It's a real pinch point at the apex, even if drivers try to come around the outside. So Steve Greenwood, you can see now, trying to break away, a second clear of Ragnar Wisloff, feeling the pressure. Here's Gary Bystrom and Donald Poole lining up behind. One lap of 19 for race number 1 in the books now. And the drivers are still going to be finding their tyre temperature, finding their rhythm, finding their groove, and finding the curb off the exit of turn 1 there for Ragnar Wisloff. Did he also find the wall? He really bottomed that car out, running low on the low pressures on the curb, half spin, and doesn't appear to be any damage. Let's take a look at our first race spot replay, and this is something that happens oh so easily in these single seaters. Carrying all the speed he can through turn 1, the car runs out a little bit wide, still got steering lock on as it bounces on the curb and loses the car halfway, stands on the brakes. Oh, little side-by-side contact with the wall. He might be able to get away with that contact with the tyre barrier, but it has cost him a lot of positions.
I think he has got away with that. He is still out there on track, so he's doing well as he's moving through. And, yeah, fallen down to 10th place, though, for Wisloff, so that's not ideal for him as he works his way through the infield. And yeah, back to the front of your field. Donald Poole just getting a little bit loose on turn 11, and he's really struggling with the back end of that car, it seems, at the moment.
Yeah, track temperature is 26 right now, so not super hot, not super slick, but they do, yeah, I've seen a couple cars up and down the field really look like they are struggling for that grip at the rear early on. And then we've also learned from interviews, previous races, that by the end of, 20 minutes or so of racing, oh, that's your race leader in the wall. That's big contact for Steve Greenwood. He's also come a cropper at turn number 1, kicked up some cones, found the wall. Even worse than Ragnar Wisloff, he had a comfortable lead. I've got to put my point all the way to the back of my mind, because our race leader, trying to stretch away, has already made a mistake at turn 1. Is this going to look similar to Ragnar Wisloff? No.
Oh no!
Oh, he's made contact trying to avoid someone coming out of the pit lane. That is not. Oh, your heart breaks for Steve Greenwood.
We'll try and get enough a look at this. I don't know who it was that was actually coming out of pit road then, who lost control. It seemed like they tried to get onto they were on the dirt, so they must have had an issue with the back tyres, the rear tyres just spinning up. But here we go, enough a look. There's Greenwood. Yeah, they just got onto the dirt coming out of pit road. Oh, that's a heavy impact.
Look at all the drivers behind suddenly taking evasive action, trying to get around Steve Greenwood there. Didn't look like anyone else collected him, but for your pole sitter, got a great jump, starting to lead away at the race, and all of a sudden, unexpected surprise. He was probably thinking about the gap to the cars behind, thinking about managing his line, and that is unfortunate for Steve Greenwood. Right on board with Russ Addy, one of the drivers I saw struggling with the rear grip earlier, and he's trying to settle into his rhythm. It's now 5th place. It's a little bit of the apex curbing, gets a little bit of the exit curbing, but keeps the car pointing the right way, keeps the ship afloat, and he is lining up behind Bob Cohen and Paul Stump, and he gets mighty close to that rear wing of Bob Cohen, and a Bob Cohen rear wing it is.
Oh, it's Donald Paul!
They must have still had the pit lane speed limiter on.
No, that was Donald Paul! That was your 2nd place, man! Well, what's happened to Donald?
He's pulled over. I saw the red light flashing on the back of the car as if he'd maybe engaged the pit lane speed limiter or something. He's coming here towards turn number 2. Outside tyres, not on the grass.
Yep.
And then he just looks like, does he just engage the pit lane speed limiter and can't get it off? What happens there? The pit lane, the rain light comes on at the apex of the corner there.
That's really bizarre. I mean, he's taken a tour back to the pits. He's had to. But, well, do you know what? This is one of the most drama-filled starts to a 60 Plus Racing Adventures race that I've seen for quite a while here today.
And it's not even crashes or chaos or carnage. It's just some inexplicable little, chaos and errors there. And, well, I don't even know what to tell you about what's going on with Paul Stump there. Maybe he had something else he needed to attend to. Maybe he had a computer problem of some kind. Hard to know, but that was a rare one. It didn't look like he hit anything.
Yeah.
It looked like he just had to pull over for some reason. So Gary Bystrom leads 3 seconds from Paul Stump, Bob Cohen, Russ Addy, and Greg Garris. And this is a great little battle we've got here with Bob Cohen and Paul Stump and Russ Addy and Greg Garris. And in fact, Leroy Coppage and Ragnar Wisloff look like they're going to join the party as well. And as we ride on board here, you'll get a good idea for how powerful that slipstream is along what's technically turn 5 parabolica towards turn 6 at the hairpin. Grabbing 6th gear here, revving it all the way out. They do just close up on each other. Russ Addy, huge dive down towards the inside of the hairpin. Does he get it stopped and turned? Think he will. Chance for the over-under here from Bob Cohen. That was an ambitious move, and you can kind of do that when there's 2 cars battling anymore, and you might be doing something a little risky, but I think Russ Addy has taken that position very good on the slow pedal.
Yeah, that was a classic turn 6 move right there. Got the job done into the hairpin, and Cohen, he did the right idea. The right idea is to try and get that over-under to get the run out the corner, because you're going to be faster on the exit of the corner. But Addy just had that enough ahead to be able to pull away, and to now focus on Paul Stump in front of him. Bob Cohen now coming under a little bit of pressure from Greg Garris. So Cohen's going from having to defend on one driver, now having to look in his mirrors again.
Yeah, absolutely. This is 2nd through to 7th on the pit straight you all see here. I think Coppage is actually under a bit of pressure from Ragnar Wisloff there as well in the background, as you saw Greg Garris run very wide on the exit of turn 1. Ragnar Wisloff, after that early spin in turn 1, now he looks so good, and he's going to make a position into turn 2. And if he can get the traction down well here, he'll be able to defend it and then hitch himself onto, well, they call it a DRS train in Formula 1. I think I'd call it just a slipstreaming train and battle pack here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures in the Indy Pro 2000 cars. So that's a position made for Ragnar Wisloff. Started on the front row of the grid, lost some positions. Here's Russ Addy deciding he wants to try to pick off another. That's going to become his signature by the end of this race. Called turn 6 Russ Addy corner.
Yeah, down the inside of Paul Stump. And Stump now can't really fight back, unfortunately for him. So he's down there into 3rd place in all of this. It's not a bad place to be in, really, if you think about it. But still on the podium, but he would want to be moving forward, of course. He's got one eye on a championship to look forward to here. So hopefully he can get his foot down and get going. So Addy just seems to be on a mission here today.
Yeah, absolutely. With the fixed setup, qualifying pace can be one thing and race pace the other. So Addy started 7th on the grid, now up to 2nd, and he's had to fight and fight hard for some of those positions. Another driver we expect to come back through the grid though, Ragnar Wisloff. He qualified well, and you saw that the cold tyres just didn't work for him on the curb through there at turn 1 early on. Now, respectful traffic getting out of the way of this train. I was noticing that our train leader, Russ Addy, was starting to catch that. And there's the wiggle, there's the wheel work and the work on the throttle. They sure don't have the horsepower of an Indy car, of a Formula 1 car, but the way they're set up, the way they work, they do require a little bit of discipline on the throttle still. And you can see, using all of the revs is Ragnar Wisloff, putting down the inside. Is he going to try to do Russ Addy's move? He's come from a long way back. He's made the apex, and luckily Greg Garris has seen that move coming, kind of expected it, and that was quite ambitious from Ragnar. We're going to see if he's able to seal the deal, because Garris still got a better run off the corner. He's going to sweep back through to be able to defend the inside at the Mercedes-Benz corner here. So Ragnar Wisloff showed his intent, tried to do it cleanly, but wasn't quite able to seal that position.
Yeah, Garris just getting that wider run through the corner meant that he could get the power down a little bit earlier. That meant that he could pull the car through and get ahead once again on corner exit down on that run to turn 7. But certainly Wisloff is putting the pressure on, and you would expect this really from a man who qualified so highly in this opening race. And a little mistake through the penultimate corner, through the north corner now. No, that's the south corner, isn't it? It's the north corner up here is what we should be seeing. And through he goes, runs a bit wide, pick himself a 1x instant point, but he won't be too worried about that at the moment.
Yeah, but just be thankful that the car's still pointing the correct way as he rode across the curb there. And that might be the secret. Just open the hands up a little bit if you know you're going to hit the curb and run wide, and that might be safer than trying to really stringently keep it within bounds. But look how close he is. Look how strong the slipstream is. Now he's so much closer at turn 6. Down the inside already before they get on the brakes. Nose in front, nose ahead to the apex. Probably able to track out here as well, though it did look oh so squirrely in one of those short gears trying to put the power down. He is in front of Greg Garris. And Leroy Coppage still in the picture in the background there as well, but one lap later, the move sticks for Ragnar Wisloff. Now he's got to look forward at Bob Cohen, at Paul Stump, and at Russ Addy. Gary Bystrom, what a good job he's doing though. He's managed to extend his race lead a little bit further. 4 seconds as we're almost at the halfway point of this race. He's able to do his laps. It's been given, a bit of a free kick with this race lead, but doing all the right things with it. Smooth, consistent, it would seem, just trotting away with the race lead, not feeling too much pressure from Russ Addy just yet, though he might be able to apply some in the second half of this race now that he's worked his way up to second with what seemed like great race pace and great racecraft.
I mean, we've spoken to the drivers time and again about this car and about how they've got to do a little bit of looking after the tyres. They can't abuse the tyres too much early on, or else they just start going away from them towards the end of the race. Now, you mentioned earlier, David, the weather conditions. There you go. Track temperature now 28 degrees. So it's getting a little bit hotter on track, but it's not excessively hot. One thing that won't help these cars is that there is a number of low-speed corners that require then an application of power. So there's a big braking zone, and then you've got to get back on the power, and that's going to work those rear tyres and maybe overheat them towards the end of the race.
Yeah, certainly seen it in places that, particularly through that turn 6 hairpin, the car just hasn't put the power down as you'd like, and we're seeing Coppage chasing Garris, and saw Coppage really sort of slide it in towards the apex, muscling the car, throwing it around a little bit. It's the kind of thing that they maybe try to avoid in this point of the race to keep the tyres in check so that they've still got grip right at the end. Wider line for a later apex for Garris in front compared to the man we're riding on board with, Leroy Coppage through the final sector here. Often give that first right-hand apex a miss to set you up well, to put the power down well through the second one. Sort of really make it one big corner with a late apex. We're going to ride with Coppage through turn 1 there as well. That seems like a corner that is tough to nail your turn-in point perfect every single time. As we keep watching these two, they almost appear to be starting to lose touch with the pack up ahead, which probably won't be pleasing Coppage, but Garris is just doing what he can to keep his nose clean and out of trouble.
Yeah, you mentioned how Garris took that bit of a wider line through Sat's curve. That doesn't always work out for you there because of the fact that it is a heavily cambered corner. You usually want to try and keep it down in the bottom of the corner, hold your apex to take advantage of the camber of the track to help you around that corner. But it worked out for Garris, and these two just separated out just a little bit. Worth pointing out, Russ Addy has been closing up a little bit on your race leader, but still, he's got Paul Stump in attendance with Bob Cohen and Ragnar Wisloff not that far behind.
Yeah, Bystrom's lost about a second of his lead, hasn't he? And Addy does appear to be towing Stump and Cohen and also Ragnar Wisloff up towards the lead as well. I think Wisloff is a real joker in the pack here. We've seen some of his moves when he gets close, and he's closing in on Cohen, who is staying in the slipstream of Stump. He's following along Russ Addy through turn 1. They will all go. Laps starting to tick down in this race number 1. There will be a second race tonight as well. Look at that, a new fastest lap by Ragnar Wisloff. A little bit of traffic for these guys. Addy and Stump and Cohen all trying to squeak their way on through. Who's in the 17? Bill Shermatz and JC Hay, I think, are having their own battle here. A bit of a lap down, then out side by side for 26th position. But what has that done for our second place drivers? Oh, actually, Gary Bystrom's lost even more time to that than Russ Addy. Look at the gap now, 1.8, 1.9 seconds. Addy had to get offline to get through, but Bystrom also. And Paul Stump really lighting it up and getting lively off the hairpin.
So what can go against you as a race leader is if you are going to catch lap traffic, is you're the first one getting to those cars, and they maybe not be awake to you coming up behind them. We've got two cars off. Oh, and they've both got heavy damage. That's Hallstrom and Brink. So something big has happened to those two.
Yeah, they were battling for position. Oh, that's tyres on the grass. So the car out in front, which must have been Brink, has had a messy run through turn 1. Oh, and then a hip check to Hallstrom. I don't think Hallstrom's done a damn thing wrong there. The track really does narrow off the exit of turn 1. Was it a really late move to defend? I'm just not sure. That was a battle for position, and they've collided on what you ought to consider a straight.
Yeah, that's a little bit unusual, is that really, isn't it? You don't normally see an accident at that point of the track, but yeah, that has happened, and unfortunately it means that we've got both of those drivers taking a tour back to the pits with considerable damage. But fortunately for those drivers, like everybody in this series, you do get a free repair, so you can get a quick repair done and get back out there. And of course, it's not an entire disaster because, of course, yes, we do have two races, but it's the best result from those two races that you take into the championship, David. And of course, there's two drop scores in the series as well, so there's plenty of opportunities to, if you do have an issue, it's not the end of the world.
No doubt those drivers can still get a good result in race number 2. This is looking backwards from Russ Addy. Yes, it is. Paul Stump has gotten real close to him, and for a second I thought they were going to battle each other into the hairpin, but actually at turn 6 they didn't. If they do start fighting, that'd be very nice for Gary Bystrom. He'd love second and third behind him to keep fighting. Different lines again through the last two corners. Russ Addy giving the first apex a miss to make sure he hits the second one. Paul Stump taking the short run in, trying to diamond off the corner, but got a little wiggly between the two apexes. And this looks like full attack from them. You can see Gary Bystrom, the next car up the straight, the race leader, a potential race win up the road if he can close the gap. But it has gone from 1.8 out to closer to 2.5 seconds. Bystrom doing all the right stuff, despite some little missteps through the traffic potentially. Addy, I think, as the laps tick down, is going to have to start really worrying about what Paul Stump might do. He takes his wide defensive line. Stump's going for a look at the hairpin. Stump wants second place back, and they are going to be too wide, and whoa, Stump almost gets squeezed out by Addy there. But that's not the quick line for either of them. This is good news for Gary Bystrom, I think.
Yeah, if these two fight too much, they'll slow each other down, and that'll allow the leader to pull away. So I think there's an element of Paul Stump wanting to work together with Russ, but as you can see that gap is just eking out in front of him, that really it's going to be a case of, as time runs out, the focus goes from the race leader to that second place and wanting to finish in that spot that he was in earlier in the race. Stump.
Well, another lap done. Not a lot of change up the front. A couple of other battles back and down through the field. Hills and Shoemake switched some positions there as well. Louis Cannell and Stefan Roastgen are battling. Here's a look at Douglas Beasley on the replay. Already, I think, a little bit of damage on that car for him. But then what happened through one of the new parts of the track? He's well wide of the apex, still tries to turn in for it, loses the rear, has to gather it up. No harm done, no damage done, but one position lost, and he'll try to pick his braking zone a little earlier for that one going forward, I would think. Ooh, and now here's Paul Stump potentially losing out to Bob Cohen. Big move down the inside from Cohen. Here comes Ragnar Wisloff as well. I think he just reset the fastest lap of the race by 1,000th of a second last time around. So he could be right in place to take some of these spots away. And I've also seen, we mentioned Stefan Roastgen from 20th on the grid was a bit deeper in qualifying than we would have expected. I'm seeing he's worked his way up to 10th and trying to battle for 9th. So this race still well and truly alive with a lot of laps to go here. And Wisloff, one of the drivers to watch to make some moves. Stefan Roastgen as well, potentially. Up high and wide from Wisloff. Not sure that's the quickest way through there, but it only matters to be close through turns 4, 5, and 6. This is a lap car that squeezes out. He's got the cone. No one knows where to go. They all scatter one way and the other. I wonder if Russ Addy gets a penalty for that one. That car's already got a wheel off. Addy's going to lose out to Stump down the inside. Cohen and Wisloff trying to take their regular lines. No one knew where to avoid that car that was missing its front left tyre. Well, it wasn't missing. It was just attached 90 degrees wrong.
Well, here's have a look from Russ Addy's point of view then. So there's that car off,
Bystrom,
and he's tried to go into the pit lane. Russ Addy was committed to the inside, and then all of a sudden, it's chaos ensued. We'll have another quick look at that. But you're absolutely right, David. Gary Bystrom, he was involved in all of that.
I think he's just gotten off scot-free. They're 3 wide on the live pictures, by the way, if you don't mind. Bob Cohen and Russ Addy side by side now. Ragnar Wisloff's gotten ahead. Paul Stump's lost out in all of this. Greg Garris is back in the picture. Wisloff looking 3 wide down the inside. Careful, mate. Cohen, a lot of speed around the outside, but then hits the AstroTurf. Russ Addy back into second. Ragnar Wisloff up into third. They're single file now, but it's brought this pack back together, brought them alive, and let Gary Bystrom get away. So all excitement for these guys, not necessarily the type you would have signed up for this morning, but they are definitely not having a boring race here for the podium positions, that's for sure. And Ragnar Wisloff, from second on the grid, dropped all the way back to 10th or so when he got too much curb on lap 2. Now he might be placed to get that second place back.
You never know. I mean, Ragnar's showed that he's got the pace. all race. Okay, he made that mistake on that one, did a tremendous job to keep it out. Well, I say out the wall. He did kiss the wall, but fortunately hit it side on, which a low enough speed won't do any damage to you, really. So he's got off a little bit lucky with that one. But now he's actually coming under pressure from behind, is Ragnar. Bob Cohen, he wants a piece of this now, as they're going to go too wide into the hairpin again.
I think Wisloff got a little bit greedy trying to make the move in turn 2, and then has heard his run onto the straight, let Cohen get close. They're going to go side by side once again. Good work by Paul Stump not to run into the back of either of them. It always really gets close, and Constantina's up through that hairpin. The switchback. Wisloff just looking down the inside every which way. It's almost going to end in contact. That really sends Bob Cohen up, out and out wide. Paul Stump tries to avoid there as well. Wisloff still holding on to second place. Russ Addy says, see you later, fellas, if that's the way you're doing, trying to battle every single corner.
Oh, Stump!
Wisloff's so wide. Bob Cohen's so wide. Paul Stump around the inside, outside of both of them. Greg Garris trying to pick some off. Both of them got in too deep into this arena section. Bob Cohen's able to just squeeze out Greg Garris to hold on to his spot. Ragnar Wisloff back into 6th again. Does not know when not to attack. Slide there from Paul Stump. Bob Cohen grabs both of them. 3 wide on the pit straight. Greg Garris, not even on the pit straight, collects 2 of them. Oh no!
A wheel onto the grass, and that costs 3 cars a finish here. Let's have another look at this then. So it all started with Wisloff and Cohen running wide. They then sort themselves out. They were battling away through Sat's curve. Through the left and the right is all okay. Then you're going to see if Paul Stump has a moment through the penultimate corner, gets it wrong. Garris is committed out wide. Touches the grass. There's no grip on the grass. And that's it. Wipes out 2 cars in one effort. Not intentionally, by the way.
Yeah, wow, they'd been racing so close, so aggressively, and unfortunately, maybe that accident was a little inevitable the way it was. This is going to look interesting from Garris's perspective, because look at the slide that Paul Stump gets on. Garris been squeezed out and cost his momentum before. He says it's not happening again, but then the drive tyres on the grass. You couldn't have done that if you tried, and that's how you know he didn't.
It's heartbreak, isn't it? Absolute heartbreak for him. One person who isn't heartbreak for is Gary Bystrom. He's driving away at the front of the field. Russ Addy second. Bob Cohen, who somehow managed to avoid getting serious damage and all of that, is in 3rd. And Leroy Coppage in 4th place now.
Stefan Roschen up to 5th as well. He's been handed a bunch of free positions, and somewhere along there he battled with Louis Canal in the 697 behind and took that spot away. So the graphic says it. What I would already tell you, Stefan Roschen up 15 places in this race, and the Kohler liveried car in front is not for position, but the next one up the road is. The next one is Leroy Coppage up the road, and he's going to get a slipstream off the back marker just a little bit. 2 laps to go of a Grand Prix track size layout. Don't count out Stefan Roschen for maybe even another position. Don't know what happened with his qualifying, but he's come on pretty well in the race. Has the multiple time series champion, the winningest driver, most championship winning driver in the history of 60 plus racing adventures.
Certainly is, and
probably also the winningest driver if we're honest with ourselves.
Probably as well. Yeah, we'd have to get the abacus out there to find that one out to confirm it. But yeah, Stefan Roschen has been imperious. Of course, that was more in the Star Mazda days, wasn't it? Rather than this PM18 car. It's not really suiting his style of driving, I don't feel, and that's where he's maybe struggling with it all. Now we have got battling further down Richard Varley, Steve O'Malley and Paul Stump. So Stumpers back out there after having a pit stop, but he's down in 20th place. Ragnar Wisloff 16th after having his pit stop and a free repair.
Yep, exactly. It's 1.5 laps to go for these guys. Your leader, Gary Bystrom, is on the final lap. So he works his way around turn 5. I kind of think of it as a straight, flat out in absolutely any machinery, but technically it's turn 5 Parabolica. And he is enjoying the best lead he has ever had. Ross Addy quite a way away in the distance. There's some good battles there. I reckon Paul Stump could probably pick up another on the last lap here. But Bystrom, I think he's looking pretty safe so long as he drives a measured race here. Through Zach's curve for the penultimate time. Oh no, Stefan Roshan, we've gone to put the jinx on him. He's facing the wrong way in the hairpin.
Oh no, he's stopped.
He's beached it on the curb now. Stefan Roshan, battling for 4th, has undone his entire race. He's beached on the curb and he can't get off. Oh my goodness, that is no good for Stefan Roshan. He's had to tow, and we'll probably check in with him later. But through the final 2 corners, Gary Bystrom from 4th on the grid is going to take the win in race number 1. Through the final corner he comes. The checkered flag is waiting for him. Barney waving it there. Bystrom, no theatrics, no over-the-top celebrations, just points in the bag. Race 1 winner.
Yeah, done a good job there as Gary. Where all else, all others failed, he certainly made that work. Steve O'Malley, desperate dive to the inside, and it was a bit keen on the throttle there on corner exit, and that's Steve O'Malley around. Should get back up and running.
Stump's going to get one here. I reckon Stump's lining it up. Stump trying to make... who's he got in front of him? Is that Richard Varley? Trying to make Richard Varley defend. Running out of overtaking opportunities in the lap, but with the new car would have come new tyres potentially. I wonder if Paul Stump was still trying to deal with some of that tyre warm-up. He's on the attack now though, but again, just running out of places to make the move. We know Paul Stump could be quick enough here, but Varley, if he's unflappable, won't lose this spot. Stump is looking to the inside here, but no, there's no way to get down the inside there, and I think he knows it. Varley runs out, no, on the line for Varley, and he will hold off a late charge and a late recovery from Paul Stump. I want to look at Roshan again, if I'm honest with you. This is a full cool down lap from your winner, Gary Bystrom. What an unfortunate way for the race to end for him. No damage on the car, but just no ground clearance, beached on the apex curb.
Yeah, we'll try and bring you the final lap. In fact, I think this is the lap before, unfortunately. We'll get you that in just a moment's time. But, yeah, Stefan Rosjan, it was looking good for him, wasn't it? It was looking really good for him to get a good position. 5th place he was in at the time. I don't think this is it. It's going to be another lap. Unfortunately, I can't get you to the exact position as I speak right now. But yeah, he was looking good. And what I saw of his recovery when he was spun is that, yeah, we've got another lap here. What we saw of his recovery is that he was trying to get on the throttle and he was trying to pull away, but the problem was that there were cars coming round, so he hit the brakes because he didn't want to wipe out somebody else, quite rightly. And unfortunately, it's that action which has then got him beached on that curb on the inside of the corner, and therefore that means that Stefan unable to finish that final lap of the race.
Yeah, a real shame. I feel bad for, trying to hype him up, but he'd driven so cleanly all through the race up until that point. That is unfortunate. We're sticking with this or going to results?
Oh, we'll stick with this because we're nearly at it now. So this was his last lap. So like I say, he was trying to catch up, wasn't he? He was trying to catch up to Leroy Coppage. I don't think it was quite on for him, but here we go. It's going to be the next big braking zone. Is it a question of, does he just lose it under brakes? Does he get on the throttle a little bit too keen? Well, we're about to find out.
You can also, a couple of these corners around here, get your outside tyres on the grass, trying to widen up the entry too much. Well, he's given it a good go of it. He was closing Coppedge in front. Here on the brakes into turn 6.
He's lost it already.
The rears lock on them, don't he? And then it spins around. He gets off the racing line, trying to get out of the way of everyone. He tries to build up a bit of momentum, and then there's nothing. Gets beached, and he's just digging up the grass. That is such a shame for Stefan Rostjen. Maybe needed to have driven backwards on the grass a little further rather than trying to rejoin on the curb. But those are all things that you can think of in hindsight, not when you're in that position, having locked the rears facing the wrong way on the final lap of the race. This is how they took the checkered flag, those who were able. Gary Bystrom gifted the lead potentially, but did all the right things with it to win by 5 seconds from Russ Addy. Bob Cohen bringing home the podium, Leroy Coppedge, Louis Cannell, Barry Hills, Ulf Olsen, Randy Shoemaker, Douglas Beasley, and Joel Martin was the top 10. Barry Hills, the biggest mover in the top 10 there, plus 12 positions. The rest of the field was Deb Donnelly, Gene Moore, Wally Golsby, Bob Kern, Ragnar Wisloff, the fastest lap of the race, but unfortunately further in the field than his race pace should have suggested because of incidents. Bruce Poole 16th, Richard Varley 17th, Paul Stump there in 18th, couldn't steal it away on the final lap despite his best efforts. Then Steve O'Malley 19th, and well, officially being scored a lap down, and that's basically because he retired on the last lap, but still classified in 20th for Stefan Rostjen. Then another tale of woe, Greg Garris collecting others towards the end of the race there. Robert Love, David Riley, JC Hay, Pierre Dione, Peter Hellstrom, Bill Shermatz, Jerry Kerr, Franz Brink, a retirement, Donald Poole, a retirement in 30th. Two more was Steve Greenwood and Ernie Cancio. Steve Greenwood actually retiring to the grandstand and commenting on our YouTube chat as well. I hope we see him again in race 2 and he goes well, but that's how they all finished in race 1. We're gonna have a chat with a couple of our drivers before they gear up for race 2. Paul, who are you gonna grab by the scruff of the neck?
Well, I thought, why not chat with our race leader? So here we are then, race leader and race winner, Gary Bystrom. Gary, good evening to you, and well, how was that for you?
Well, that was great actually, because Russ and them were struggling behind me, and I didn't have to get into all that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, you gained 3 positions in the race here today in this opening race. And, you know, we saw others in front of you have issues early on. I mean, we saw Steve have that huge incident with a car coming out of the pits. We had Ragnar Wisloff lose control as well. Seems things didn't all go your own way, though, did you? There was a bit of lap traffic that gave you a few heart attacks, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this track was a little slick on the rear, and so you had to be very careful with your decisions. And yeah, I had a couple of lap cars and at least one that was out of shape and didn't know if he was coming back or what was going to happen. So yeah, that made me pucker a little bit, but got through it okay, and it was a good race.
It was certainly a good race. Now, coming into this week, of course, you did lead the championship standings. By virtue of you winning this opening race, you're at least going to be at minimum an equal amount of points ahead of your nearest championship rivals. How has the season gone for you? Because, of course, we only get to show 3 rounds of the championship, but how have you been finding this season of 60 Plus Racing Adventures?
It's been really great. This is my best season. So I had 3 wins, I think, and a couple of seconds and a third. I got through the oval. I got through Phoenix unscathed with a good finish there. So yeah, it's been really good, and I hope we can keep it up through the end of the season.
Well, that's it. It's going to be tough going, that's for sure. I mean, especially when you go to a track like Chicago in 2 rounds' time, which very few people have experience around. So that's going to be interesting to see. And of course, we've got another oval right before the end of the season. Well, Gary, it's been a brilliant drive from yourself because yes, others had issues, but you still had to get it to the end, and you did that certainly. So we'll let you get away, let you have a quick break, and then we'll hopefully see you in race 2.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Gary. So there we go. That was Gary Bystrom, our race winner, and David, we've got one more interview with you.
Absolutely, we do. Second place man Ross Addy, part of the highlight machine, it would seem. Russ, every time we looked at you, you were in some kind of battle with someone.
Yeah, it was one of the craziest races I've had. Yeah, it was fun.
Saw you stick a move or two at the hairpin at the far side of the circuit as well. Favourite hunting ground for you there? Definitely a move or two came from a long way back.
Yeah, it worked for me. Then it had me worried about everybody doing the same thing back to me. And a couple of those laps, it felt like just chaos.
Yeah, and your thoughts on this circuit, because obviously it seems like that's the key overtaking opportunity. The slipstream is super strong down the straight towards the hairpin. So what's it like trying to lead the pack?
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit slippery. Those two right-handers that are, I guess, over 90 are really difficult to not have the back end come out. So it's a good set, but it's a lot of work.
Definitely saw a couple of cars squirreling around. Second place in race 1, though. You're going to be able to go one better in race 2. What's the plan of attack there?
I hope so. I need to qualify better. I messed up the first lap and had to be safe in the second lap. And of course, when you guys are televising, I usually do okay. So I need that step up.
You're going to be digging around the loose change jar for us to cover more rounds then, potentially. But yeah, certainly, I mean, in that pack, we kind of sensed, there was some 2 wide, 3 wide, some check up behind the traffic and other stuff. And it was all, you could kind of smell disaster looming, and it did happen in your mirrors.
Yeah, and a little earlier I'd gotten a little gap, and then I think a back marker spun, and I had to go through the grass, and it put us back all together again. But yeah, when I saw the, whatever it was, 4 seconds, I breathed a sigh of relief, that's for sure.
Well done. Go well in race 2. Any parting words?
No, thanks for televising, and yeah, it's a great group, and congratulations for the winner.
Well put. See ya.
Yep, take care.
Well, Paul, I think it's time we also take a little itty-bitty break here on RaceSpotTV, and when we come back, race 2 of 60-plus racing adventures here at the Hockenheimring. Race 1 was action-packed. We've spoken to a couple drivers who are happy with their result in race 1, but we know there will be a handful of drivers, Stefan Rostjen, Ragnar Wisloff, and others, looking to improve in race 2, looking to finish where they feel like they deserve and where their pace has commanded. So stick with us, because when we return on RaceSpotTV, it's David Haynes and Paul Smith here with more 60-plus racing adventures shortly. Welcome back to 60 Plus Racing Adventures, and thanks for sticking with us. It's time for race 2 at the Hockenheimring. Before we go racing, it's time to go qualifying here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures at the Hockenheimring. I'm David Haynes. I'm joined by Paul Smith. And Paul, race 1 was super exciting from the front to the back of the grid. I'm hoping we still get that strong field of Indy Pro 2000s once again, because we know a lot of drivers had some incidents or missed out on where they feel they should have finished in race 1. Race 2 has the potential to give us the same action, but a very different finishing order.
Certainly does, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting second race here. A few drivers wanted to make up for what, for instance, that happened in race 1. This driver being one of them, Steve Greenwood. So he'll be hoping to make amends for what happened. But yeah, definitely it's going to be an intriguing second race. There is a smaller grid, I can tell you that now. So we haven't got quite as many cars for the second race, but that gives some drivers some better opportunities to score themselves some points.
Yes, indeed, precisely. David Riley isn't going to be one of them. I can just see that he's hit the wall on one of his qualifying laps. The drivers get 10 minutes to do the outlap, and they get 2 flying laps. And we actually heard a little bit of commentary on that from Russ Addy after race 1, didn't we? He said he made a big mistake on his first lap, so then the second lap was the only one that was going to count, and he had to dial it back a little bit to make sure lap 2 kind of had to be his banker lap. So certainly let's take a look on board with Steve Greenwood as he's gearing up for one of his flying laps.
Yeah, here he is then out of the Sud curve. And on he goes now to the first of his flying laps. Turn 1, down a gear. Try not to hit the inside curb too hard. Use the curb on the outside very well. Keep the car on the left-hand side here into turn 2, onto the brakes. Don't always have to hit the apex quite so much. Turn 3 and turn 4 there, the left-hander. Sweep it across then for turn 5. This long sweeping curve. It's effectively a straight because you're absolutely flat out in this car all the way down. Looking for your brake marker, keeping the car on the left-hand side, onto the brakes, just before the 100-metre board, into turn 6, the hairpin. Look to get a smooth application of the throttle on the way out. Keep on the left-hand side as we head towards turn 7. Flat out right-hander. Not a lift of the gas. Into turn 8 then. Brake at the end of the first of those curbs on the right hand side, left, then left again at turn 9. Turn 10, careful of the curb on the inside. If you get a wheel over it, it can actually send you off the track. Turn 11, back onto the old circuit now, into the stadium section, not using all of the curb there on the left hand side, and then Sachs curve through the left hander, cambered corner, left, right, penultimate corner, tricky corner to get right here as the lap times are coming in thick and fast. Big moment there for Greenwood. Final corner at Sud curve, and away we go. And that is a lap of the Hockenheimring in 1 minute 35.8.
Yep, and it is going to stick to the board for Greenwood. It's going to stick to third place, and you can see on the left-hand side some of the time starting to trickle in. For example, there comes a time from Bruce Poole. Here's Ragnar Wisloff, qualified very well for race number 1. Race number 2, he's currently looking at pole position as his first lap. He's got one more flying lap, and the drivers do tend to approach it like banker lap for lap number 1 and then go all out. Risk it for the biscuit in lap number 2. Is that what we're going to see here from Ragnar Wisloff coming through the new section of the track with the Mercedes-Benz grandstand back towards the old section of the track, and then this super fast right-hander in towards the old arena and towards Sachs curve. This is where he ran wide in race number 1 as well. A lot of the apex curb, a lot of the stuff on the runoff as well. Hope this is a legal lap so far as he throws it into Sachs curve very aggressively, looking to get the throttle open. And it's 2 more corners for Ragnar Wisloff as we see, can he improve and solidify his reach on the podium? Again, a bit of a wiggle between these final 2 corners. That looks like a real tricky stretch, but Wisloff to the line, and oh, it is only fractionally an improvement for him. And he's going to lose out on pole position to Gary Bystrom, who sneaks through with a super quick one. Here's Steve Greenwood coming to the end of his second lap, looking for an improvement on 35.8.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, and some to pole.
A 35.140. It's not that much faster than Bystrom, so it's really close at the top of your field. That's really good to see with those, but yeah, we're seeing times coming in thick and fast. One driver who's not set a time yet, Donald Poole, he's yet to get a time in here. So too Jerry Kerr, Gene Moore and Pierre Dion. So we have got a 26 car grid, I do believe, 27 car grid, sorry, for you in the second race. So a few drivers left. We had 32 in the first race, but of course you don't have to compete in the second race of the evening, but we always like to see as many people as possible.
Yeah, exactly. We always talk about there's something to fight for in this second race. Even if you are the race 1 winner, if you back it up and clean sweep, then it stops anyone else also bagging race win points. So 3.5 minutes left in this qualifying session. Quite a lot of the drivers with all of their times on the board, their 2 laps completed. Don Poole, the driver, yet to... Well, I think he's used up one of his laps, and this is his second lap.
35.5, that's not a bad time, puts him 6th place, so not too bad out there. Stefan Rosgen, he's one that's coming towards the end of his lap, and again, not the best qualifying. Stefan just doesn't seem to get on with his car. He's better in the races though.
Looked like a boatload of understeer as we watched on board live. Maybe it's the lower pressures and the tyre warm-up that doesn't work for him. He does put 36.0 on the board, but I think
it was an invalidated lap.
Yeah, and he'd already had to take a pit stop somewhere in this qualifying session as well, so he's looking at 16th right now. Stefan Rosgen, again, maybe a little uncharacteristic, but we'll see what he does in the race. Here's Gene Moore. I think he's going to get around. He's on his first flying lap here, so he's going to get to complete this one, but he might run out of time. In fact, I'd say damn near guarantee he's going to run out of time for the second lap.
Very distinctive livery that he's got there with, runs it out wide, does Gene. To be fair, with the steering lock on these cars, it is so difficult to get around that hairpin and keep it on the track. It does surprise you just how tight that hairpin is here at Hockenheim. But certainly Gene Moore, give him a bit of airtime out here, seeing as he is on a flying lap for himself.
Yeah, we also saw from the onboard of Rosgen that you can start to pick up a little bit of understeer, and then the front will really wash. So it can happen in the medium speed corners. What's happening in the medium speed corners for Rosgen, and then obviously in the slower speed corner there for Gene Moore. See how he navigates this bit. This is where I was talking about for Rosgen. Moore getting some good rotation there, and he is going to get to complete this lap, but we think it's not going to count, and it doesn't look like there's enough time left to complete another lap. Not sure about that one though, and the car looks pointy towards the apex of turn 1.
Yeah, I mean his lap time didn't count, but it would have put him at the back of the grid anyway with that lap time. So I think he's just trying to get back into the feel of the car, and this is what you find with a few of these drivers. They'll actually stay out there after their qualifying lap has finished, and then just find themselves in a few extra practice laps.
Oh, look at that dude in the grandstand down the bottom. He is super pumped. He's loving the sunshine, and he's ready for race number 2. We will be shortly as well. I think every driver capable of putting a time on the board has done so. They're just counting down the clock at this moment.
Yeah, not long to go before the start of this race. And of course, it's the short pace lap here. It's not a full pace lap. We start off just before the old stadium section. So yeah, the drivers don't have long to be able to get their tyres warmed up as much as possible before the start of the race.
Let's look at the grid for the start of that race now that qualifying is officially concluded. The front row of the grid, Steve Greenwood and Gary Bystrom. Ragnar Wisloff starting out third, Paul Stump in fourth, Barry Hills in fifth, and Donald Poole in sixth. Then you go further back to row 4, it's Greg Garrison, Louis Cannell, Russ Addy and Bob Cohen, Ulf Olsen and Randy Shoemake.
Absolutely. Row number 7 then for David Riley and Deb Donnelly, with Bruce Poole and Stefan Rosgen on row number 8. Row number 9 for Douglas Beasley, with Joel Martin alongside him there. Row 10, Richard Varley with Ernie Cancio. Then is row 11, Robert Love with JC Hay. Row 12, Bob Kern and Peter Hallstrom. And then just a couple more to go. Row 13, Pierre Dion and Gene Moore. And then the final row, all to himself, Jerry Kerr, down there in 27th. Although I don't know if he is actually going to take the start.
So our field here, 2 by 2, lining up partway around the lap. In fact, it's really 2/3, 3/4 of the way around the lap. They have all taken to the grid, so the Porsche pace car sets off through this final sector. And the tyres start stone cold. No tyre warmers in this category, because why would you have tyre warmers for the Indy Pro 2000, part of the road to Indy? You don't even have tyre warmers for IndyCar. So they do start off stone cold, and the track is at 25 Celsius. The air is 20, so it is going to be a skatey little start for everyone who's going to need to have their wits about them. And they are going to be starting momentarily. There goes our safety car. Here goes our grid. Steve Greenwood, technically the pole man, on the inside of the first row, well ahead of Bystrom, who's now maybe going to cause a little bit of a check-up. Here they all come down towards turn 1. Looks like Bystrom will still hold on to that second place potentially. Wisloff skating down the inside there as well. A couple drivers out wide. Looks like Greg Garris out there trying to rejoin. Track really narrows. Watch the rejoin, and watch the rejoin indeed. That must be Bob Cohen there with a wheel off his wagon, and someone else joining him as well. A little bit of chaos on turn 1.
Yeah, Bob Cohen, Ulf Olsen getting involved together there. So unfortunately, those two coming together where that track narrows. We saw it in race 1, and we've seen it yet again. But look at that, Steve Greenwood again. He's on a mission to try and pull ahead here.
Yep, he is all action. Whoa, who's steaming in deep into the hairpin there? They grab one position, but the over-under in strong effect, not quite behind. Now this would be David Riley and Louis Cannell, I would think. Cannell behind, looked down the inside, tyres still cold, well advised to just drive within himself, keep building that pressure, and maybe attack a little later. We'll have more confidence underneath him. And Greg Garris is around at that same corner with the Mercedes-Benz Grandstand. He's going to drop all the way to the back. Is he going to be able to rejoin? He is. He's not going to get beached on the curb like Stefan Rosgen did in race 1. He rejoins with a bit of damage to the rear wing, and that's no drive. Rear wheel hanging up in the air. Russ Addy, no wheels on the wagon on the right-hand side. More cars have come together in race 1.
Yeah, Barry Hills then was one of those cars, and Russ Addy, who we're looking at here. So I'm thinking that Hills has had an issue through this corner here. Yes, he has. Oh, and he's on the grass. There's very little he can do about it, and Russ Addy's the innocent party in all of that.
Oh, and someone has to go around the outside of him at Sachs Curve, while others go down the inside. This is the view from Russ Addy. He's watching out front, trying to follow his line. All out of sorts for Hills, who then just comes back across the path that he was trying to follow.
There's very little that you can do with that. You just sat there hoping and praying that you don't collect anyone, and unfortunately he has done just that. So Russ Addy on pit road right now.
Maybe he won't be digging around his savings jar to spruik us to cover more rounds. Unfortunate for Russ Addy. Maybe he put the jinx on himself, who knows, but this is the battle for second and third. Gary Bystrom, your race 1 winner, feeling the pressure from Ragnar Wisloff in this battle for second and third. Take a look further back, because Ernie Cancio going a bit slowly.
Yeah, he's had an issue at turn 8 in the Mercedes arena, so he's had problems out there. But 4 wheels on his wagon and he's keeping going, that's the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. He is so easy to have the tyres on the grass at turn in there. He was trying to battle with someone. He's tried to get down the inside and clipped that apex curb, hasn't he? Yep. Well done to stand on the brakes, pick it up, and he's only really realistically lost 2 or 3 spots there. Early goings, that's easily done. It was actually from a narrow entry, not an entry that was too wide. So many ways you can take the wrong racing line. Turn 1, difficult to make an overtaking pass stick there because it's such a fast entry, not really a braking zone, and it has potentially cost Ernie Cancio here as he's driving across, putting a block, and around the outside in the 14 comes David Riley on Joel Martin, side by side. Oh, they nearly make contact, and now Ernie Cancio has Joel Martin ranging up behind him, looking for the inside for turn 6. Absolutely side by side towards this heavy braking zone. Across onto the racing line goes Cancio. Joel Martin sensibly on the brakes a little bit early, but that is a very compromised line in that then squeezes out David Riley as these guys battle over 12.
Yeah, this is really good battling further down in your field, 3 cars together. Also further down, Jim Moore, Richard Varley. You've got Peter Hallstrom and Bob Kern as well. They've just changed positions. Further down, there's a move. We've seen some ambitious moves, and unfortunately, Pierre, you got that a little bit too ambitious.
Yeah, indeed, and it's in the 222. Pierre Diona happy to... I think it's actually a pretty clever rejoin, all things considered. We'll take another look at it then, why not? They're battling too wide in front of him, and he's not the first, probably not the last victim of this particular turn. Barreling down quickly, too quickly, some evasive action, sees the rears lock up, and then, how's this for a rejoin? Not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad, a little bit of rally crossing, but he's fine, he's back up underway. Down in 21st though, so it's dropped him down to the back of those drivers who have not been on pit road. Everyone is back in the race, so we've had 6 cars on pit road from various incidents.
Now this a little further up the order, Don Poole in 5th, looking at Paul Stump in 4th. Good 2-car battle just up from them, Gary Bystrom and Ragnar Wisloff, and then Steve Greenwood looking for some redemption from race 1, starting to walk away from the field a little bit. So what can Donald Poole do as we ride on board with him? He's actually lost a couple car lengths through that part of the lap, but now into a part that might favour him. That is a good line towards the Sachs curve. Stump just didn't have quite the same drive, but Donald Poole knows that he wasn't quite close enough to make an attack there, but he's still quite close to Stump, who on the last lap matched the pace of the next 2 in front as well. Well wide of the apex in the final bit, but also Donald Poole not able to capitalise there either. That has been such a difficult section of track for everyone. No one seems to know what's the right line through there.
To be fair, it is really tricky through those that penultimate and then the last corner, because the car just always wants to understeer around there. We've got Joel Martin off, speaking of the penultimate and also the last corners. So Joel Martin facing the wrong way, and he's doing the sensible thing of reversing before then getting it a bit full of throttle, get it off the grass, and then it pulls away. So what has happened here to Joel Martin?
Well, the sort of chopper shot tells us the rear just gets loose off of there. We saw Paul Stump do that even late in the race with properly warm tyres in race 1. Just got to keep the car so balanced. Maybe also a little bit off camber with that first apex there as well. So he's just lost the rear all by himself, stayed out of everyone else's way, picked it up and got going once more. This once again, 4th and 5th. And it's Bob Cohen behind, a lap down, unfortunately. He was kind of battling for these positions in race 1. Now he's looking at them again, but from a lap back, regrettably.
Yeah, it was a disastrous start for him. In fact, what I want to do is just have a look back, if we can, at the race start for Bob and to see what happened in all of that. So we'll have a look then at the race start. Relatively clean getaway into turn 1, cold tyres. Wow, that's a send. That's what happened to Greg Garris. And then Cohen's giving space, he's giving space. Oh, that car just returning to the track. Just comes across a little bit too far.
There was maybe a common theme between both of those incidents that we just saw. You might need to have a little bit more caution in the pack on the first lap than to try to send it down the inside at turn 1. It's actually a bit of a shame to see. Here's some drivers who are still going, still fighting. Wislaw has gotten in front of Gary Bystrom, so Wislaw into second.
Yeah, so Bystrom not really getting on, is he? He would have liked to have won the second race, just so he could then deny anybody else from getting maximum points for the week. So, you know, Bystrom, I mean, he won't be disappointed with where he is at the moment, but he will have been wanting to have been up there with Steve Greenwood. But Greenwood, we saw in race 1, he has that outright pace around here. I do think that he just has that little bit of extra pace compared to the rest of the competitors. The problem for him was, of course, in race 1, he had that incident with that car recovering from the pit lane.
Yeah, that car that kind of spun, leaving pit exit right in front of him. Here is Roastron, though. He's in 9th. Who's he got in front of him? It's Bruce Poole and Randy Shoemaker. Douglas Beasley's not far behind either. It's Roastron really trying to take the smooth line off the final corner. Good run onto the pit straight, and it is going to get him alongside towards turn 1. Often don't see a lot of overtaking here because it's not really a braking zone and you carry a lot of speed through one line there, but clean and tidy. Stefan Roastron takes that place. It puts Randy Shoemaker under pressure from Douglas Beasley. Shoemaker defending at turn 2. Beasley might try to take a different line onto turn 5. He will, and he's going to get a good run at him. So, having lost one spot on the pit straight, it's probably set up Randy Shoemaker to lose another before they even get to the turn 6 hairpin, unless he's going to take this long way around and then try to fight back in the inside. Doesn't quite seem like the Randy Shoemaker way.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe he was taking that wide line and let Douglas Beasley pass and then nip right in underneath the gearbox, get the slipstream from Beasley to be able to then slingshot himself back past. But, you know, some people say that, you know, there's certain corners in motorsport you just do not overtake at. Well, I'm sorry, it's a racetrack. You can overtake at any corner. I'll pass my... I hope somebody clips that and sends that to a certain C Horner at Red Bull. But right now, these two, Wislaw and Bystrom, they're still pretty close together there for second place. But Steve Greenwood is walking away at the front of the field.
Yeah, looks like Greenwood has the fastest lap of the race at the moment. He's got handy chunk of time ahead of Wislaw. But if anything we're seeing here, Ragnar Wislaw might be able to close that up. If Gary Bystrom couldn't, Wislaw, now released into second, might just keep that pressure on Greenwood for the rest of this race. We'll see if that lets the lead close up a little bit. It was only 1/10 on the last lap, but might be possible for Wislaw to do this. He's definitely been punchy at times. Stefan Roastron here in 8th is getting punchy for 7th as he just lines up the slipstream with Bruce Poole. Got that radio antenna on the nose. You can almost use as a targeting sight to follow the car in front. Just line it up and look at the speed advantage once they get into 5th and 6th gear. Knows he's not close enough to attack just yet, but he's going to take a wide entry, late apex, and pick up the throttle well off the exit just to keep ramping up the pressure on the driver in front, keep giving himself momentum to strike into the braking zone at any of these corners. Again, not quite close enough and thinks better of it, but he is lurking and looming as Stefan Roastron.
Certainly is, and You don't become a multiple-time champion by accident. He's got that experience, although then again, all of these drivers have the experience, but he's certainly got that winning mentality, hasn't he? He certainly knows what it takes to achieve and to win championships. So he'll be trying to use that mentality to try and progress himself further forward. Again, 2 poor qualifying sessions from Stefan, and that's cost him as Donald pulls onto pit road.
I think I see some damage to the front left there, so I wonder if he's clipped something or made some contact. That front wing is less than perfect, and that will hurt you so much in a straight line and probably also give you a bunch of understeer. There's my favourite little pothole in pit lane. Hope they get around fixing that one at some point. But we will find out for Don Poole what has happened.
Pit road. I can't see that. Oh, there. That's what happened. He mounted the curb. And those sausage curbs, it's the worst thing you can do to mount that. And he knows immediately that is affecting his top speed massively. Because not only does it damage the front of the car, the nose, the front wing, but it also damages the floor of the car as well. We'll get another look at this.
There's already some there as well, though. So has that also helped him to understeer out there, potentially?
That will have really affected him. And he knows at that point, right, I need to pit and I need to get a fresh car. Fortunately, of course, in this series, you can get that fresh car.
Well, Ragnar Wisloff hasn't been able to claw back Steve Greenwood's lead on the previous lap. We're about to see the timings once again, but you can see Wisloff is not getting away from Gary Bystrom. In fact, Greenwood pulls out about 8/10 on this lap, so Wisloff hasn't been able to consistently match the pace that Greenwood is pulling out at the lead. 10 laps to go. The gap is as large as it has ever been. Oh, Bystrom, no, he's heading towards the wall. Little kiss, but that's with the nose, not side on with the tyres. Lit them up, coming off turn 2 towards turn 3. Gary Bystrom has ended up all the way at the wall. I think it was only walking pace, actually, when he's hit the wall there. We're going to take a look at it. He's maybe watching too closely what Wisloff in front was doing, and he's lit up his own rear tyres.
He's parked the car as well. He's taken the tow back to pit lane. Oh, he's half picked up the throttle and then into the tyre wall. And he's thought, right, let's get it spun round, and then it's, nope, I'm parking it.
Probably thinking about what's for dinner after scoring the race win points in race 1. He's realised he's not really going to match that in race 2. There was
a car spun there.
Again. Yep.
I don't know which car that was, to be honest.
I think it's Ulf Olsen.
Yes, it is, yes. Olsen down in 26th at the moment. So not having a good day. Of course, had that incident in, on lap 1, between turns 1 and 2.
Yep, doesn't seem to have interfered here, but that is Stefan Rostgen ahead of Bruce Poole now. So Rostgen running in 5th. Sorry, Rostgen in 5th, Bruce Poole in 6th. Bruce Poole still plus 9 positions on his grid slot though. Douglas Beasley behind his plus 10 spots. So yeah, a lot of big movers already. And part of that is from some of the cars that were high up on the grid retiring or having problems. Like, oh, there's almost a... You'd be forgiven for seeing a replay there. It's what Gary Bystrom did, really struggling with the traction out of that corner there, but cleverly for Bruce Poole, he stood on the brakes earlier and managed to keep it mostly on the pavement and not make contact with the wall. But clearly, putting the power down with a bit of steering lock on, not an easy thing to do with these cars in these conditions.
No, and it's proven to be that. We heard, of course, didn't we, that it is quite slick out there. Does well, keeps it on the grey stuff, gets back up to speed then, does Bruce, but we heard in the interviews, didn't we, David, that it is quite slick out there, especially in those final couple of corners for the drivers, so they certainly are feeling the effects of it. Track temperature 27 degrees, so it has been increasing all the way through the race. And of course, as the track temperature increases, it comes a point where it does start getting a little bit slippy out there.
And the racetrack also looks a little bit green as well in places. Maybe there's not a lot of rubber down either, and that's causing some of it. Certainly for Bruce Poole, let's put him in an interesting spot here. Randy Shoemaker behind, that's Dev Donnelly, and then Douglas Beasley in front. It's going to be, maybe, at least for a couple laps, a little more cautious how he squeezes that throttle, particularly out of the slow corners at turn 2, at turn 6, and then maybe at the Sachs curve as well. Returning to the scene of the crime, straightens out the steering wheel there before putting the power down quite cleverly now to line up behind Dev Donnelly all the way down the straight here. It's a good little train there as you see them on the graphic, as you see them on the track towards the hairpin. And
there's a spun car. That's Rostchen. Rostchen spun. Oh, he's stuck right in the middle of the hairpin. Don't do it again, Stefan. No, he's kept it out of the curb this time. But that's a big, big instant for him. He was on his own.
Is it going to be... And that's what it was in race 1 as well.
Yeah.
He got late into the corner. The rears gave way as he turned towards the apex. So here, good rotation to the apex, too good rotation to the apex, and then he sort of turntables it by beaching it on that apex curb there as well. He was in a bit of a slide, hit the apex curb, and that sent him right round like a record.
I want to see the view from Bruce Poole because he can't see much of the car. In fact, if we go this view, all of a sudden, oh, there's a car there. Oh, let's stop it. Get on the power again. Well done, Bruce, for seeing that, and then to get out of it and get himself back out on track.
Yeah, exactly, but keeps costing him time and momentum and things that aren't necessarily even his own fault. Here is the battle just in front of him, though. Beasley and Donnelly now battling for 5th. Douglas Beasley plus 12 positions. He'll be well thrilled with that. Dev Donnelly still coming along with him.
You see it there on the left-hand side then, as you mentioned, David. 12 positions for Douglas Beasley. 14 positions gained for Gene Moore. Ernie Cancio with 10 positions as well. So some good big movers in your field here in the second race.
Yeah, another one to point out, maybe Ernie Cancio plus 10. And even given he could have been a little higher up were it not for some of the other things we'd seen. Still see what Ernie Cancio does as well. Keep an eye on that, as this race has actually crept up on me. We are going to be 6 laps to go. We are 6 laps to go as Steve Greenwood's already started that race. So well past the halfway point. Wonder what action, what sting in the tail could be still yet to come. Wisloff not able to catch Greenwood. Paul Stump has dropped back maybe a little bit there. So there's intervals, not complete gaps as well. So Paul Stump's actually had a bit of a scruffy lap somewhere along there. Beasley and Dev Donnelly, our highest placed battles, so we keep our focus on them as we shift our focus to 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. One of the battles going on here. Kern, Hellstrom and Vully all pretty close. Looks a bit twitchy there for Bob Kern. He's got Peter Hellstrom up behind him.
Yeah, the thing that got my attention was that there was actually 4 cars.
Oh, that's all. That gets your attention. Bob Kern all the way out sideways across the gravel, manages to slow it down, and no one collects him as he rejoins. That'll keep you awake.
Yeah, that's a big brown trouser moment, that's for sure. But the thing that brought my attention to it was that you had about 4 or 5 cars all pretty close together out there, so it was pretty good to see. So we'll get a look at this then from Bob Kern's point of view and see how bad that was. But do you see how I think he's got out of it? We'll have to listen. Just let's listen in. Yeah, gets out of the throttle, gets off the power. doesn't do what happened in race 1 and collect anyone else, so that's good work from Bob. He's made a mistake, but managed to keep it out the way of everyone.
And also importantly, managed to keep the car clean and keep all the wheels on. Though he's locked up the brake a little bit, managed to get them all unlocked on his way in there. Now it is Hallstrom up into 15th, head of Volley. Jerry Kerr sneaking up on them as well. So a great battle for everyone. And we always say that in 60 plus racing adventures. It's not just about the leaders. It's about a league that is for everyone. All of these more experienced, more worldly drivers in 60 plus racing adventures. Everyone deserves to, find someone around their pace, have a good race and enjoy themselves once a week in this competition. That's definitely what they are doing right in the meat of the field.
Bob Kern just getting a little bit out of shape there through the final corner, but keeps it going. So these three now, they've dropped back. It's now Richard Varley, Bob Kern and Jerry Kerr that are fighting for position there. Douglas Beasley is still in that 5th place. He's keeping a good gap in front.
John Martin's got a problem. Oh, he's had to park it in turn 1 in... What car is that? It's 27.
Oh, he's got a problem. He's got a wheel missing.
Yep. Yeah, it certainly does. I think he might have also been a victim of that final complex of corners here. Well, we're going to find out. He's around the outside.
Oh!
And, that's ugly.
That's
That is
Richard.
a
Robert Love.
ugly with Pierre Diona.
I thought it was Robert Love in the...
No, 222's Pierre Dione.
Pierre Dion, yeah. Yeah, my mistake. And he's tried to carry on, but yeah, that car's pretty much done for.
It was noticeably crabbing a little bit from that kind of contact, and I think the suspension damage has probably caught him out once he's gotten to the very next corner, because that's parked in the gravel of 3 and 4. Here's Beasley and Dev Donnelly and Bruce Poole fighting over turn 5. Yellow flags waving potentially, but here they go onto that turn number 5. Still kind of a 4-car fight. You can see Randy Shoemake looming right there in the background. On board now with Bruce Poole. Double slipstream. That's definitely a green flag on that board as they head in towards the toughest, longest braking zone, and he's well overshot it there, but still managed to make it turn in without losing the rear. Saw him in first gear there as well, so it is a very slow corner. A Monaco Lowe's hairpin it is not, but my goodness, it's close.
Yeah, it is really, really tight down there. This corner is a tricky corner. You can go in too fast into 8, 9 and 10. Got to be feathering the throttle. It's easy for me to say it this time as we go into the stadium section. Line wrong for Donnelly. Oh, Bruce hesitated. You can't afford to hesitate with something like that, because you end up having all sorts of issues out there, and these two are tripping over each other right now, and Douglas Beasley must be rubbing his hands together with glee.
Yeah, Beasley says, goodbye chaps, I'm out of here. I'll let you fight amongst yourselves. Dev Donnelly, Bruce Poole and Randy Shoemake. Look how quickly that's brought him right back into this battle as well. Running around in 8th. 17th, 19th, 3 to go for everyone in the final race of the evening. Top 5 quite spread out, but then you come to this battle. Donnelly, Poole and Shoemake, and once again Donnelly lined up in the slipstream behind Poole lined up in the slipstream behind Donnelly, and you really start to notice the speed difference at this point when it straightens out, but he's not game to send it down the inside at this time, but he will if Donnelly misses the apex. What? Oh, Donnelly really lit it up, came across a couple lanes to check up Poole. I don't think that was intentional. I think he just struggled putting the power down in first gear.
And this is it. This is what we were told, weren't we? That it's becoming a struggle the further into the race you go as to how you can get the power down. So definitely those drivers are starting to struggle with the rear tyres. It seems to be rear limited does this track, and 19 laps seems to be a good limit, because it's not too long that the tyres become undrivable, but it's long enough that those who can look after the tyres really start coming to the fore.
Yeah, you're just at the precipice of that cliff by the time we get to the end of lap 19. It's 2 to go for Steve Greenwood, your leader. 2 to go for this battle here. Randy Shoemake quite close to Donnelly, but we've seen him be a little passive, not particularly aggressive in this race so far. Louis Cannell from 4th has had to tow. There's damage on that car, and a lot of it a late race sting in the tail for Louis Cannell, and we are going to look at the replay. What has happened to him through turn 1, then out wide? Oh no.
Well, let's wait and see. That's the 222 getting out the way. Oh, and contact. Oh, that's hard. That's hard to take. I mean, I think it is a mistake getting the braking wrong. Pierre Dion. Yeah, because it's lifted off. He's not carrying the same speed that he would normally into that hairpin, and then all of a sudden he's been caught out by Canal getting onto the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, just distracted there, not braking like normal. It was still in 4th gear by the time he got to the apex. Normally you'd be, taking the downshifts into the corner as you were braking. He was maybe thinking about some other things, maybe checking that his car had been repaired properly. You've obviously got a lot on your mind as you're rejoining the race from the pit lane. And we've started the final lap. Steve Greenwood looking to go 19 laps, led from 19 laps. Race 1 didn't go his way, but he'll still pick up points in race 2 if he can bring this one home, because once again in 60 plus racing adventures, it's your best result of the 2 races in the round that counts. Sort of a drop race within a round in a way, and that's good news for Steve Greenwood, because race 1 was a bit of a disaster for him, but so far in race 2 he's been able to show the pace and potential that he had.
Bit of a disaster. It was a write-off for him in race 1. It's what it was, but yeah, it's been a very, very solid drive from Steve Greenwood, and yeah, all he's got to do is negotiate these final few corners, and then he'll be in for a famous victory.
A little bit of traffic in front of him. If I'm him, I avoid that and I just coast this one to the finish, because he's built himself a great lead that he can enjoy. The checkered flag is out, it is waving, and it's for him. Steve Greenwood is the winner in the second race at Hockenheimring in 60 plus racing adventures. Fight's still on though for 5th, Dev Donnelly and Bruce Poole. This is one of the places Poole had a really good look at Dev Donnelly before and backed out of the move, but again, now just a little too far back. Even if Donnelly didn't take the line he wanted coming into the arena here, he's got the line he wants from here all the way to the flag for a top 5. Bruce Poole is not going to be able to challenge him, best I can tell, unless there's a mistake in front, and Randy Shoemaker still just following along as the caboose in his train as they take the checkered flag. Seven Roshan in 8th, ran as high as 5th, and he's well, still positions gained from his qualifying, but another race where he had a spin at the hairpin. Look at that, lighting it up.
Yeah, Bob Kern at the back of this battle. Richard Varley and Peter Hallstrom in towards Sachs Curve for the final time. Oh, getting close, but this is the thing. Because of all the mistakes we've been seeing through those final couple of corners, you need to keep the pressure on the car in front of you. And Hallstrom, I think, has gone from attack to defence. And there's Kern behind. He wants by at the end here. I don't think he's going to quite have the run off the final corner. No, he isn't. And there we go across the line together.
A couple more cars to take the finish here as well. All the way, keep your wits about you all the way to the line is what it seems. Don't let your foot off the throttle on the last lap, because we definitely saw a couple battles there coming towards the end of the race. And that is the end of the race, so let's look at the results from race 2. You said it, Paul. Steve Greenwood's race 1, a write-off, but in race 2 he bags the maximum points from Ragnar Wisloff in 2nd, Paul Stump in 3rd. I think 3 drivers there who wanted to forget race 1 getting the job done in race 2. Douglas Beasley for 4th, Dev Donnelly 5th, ahead of Bruce Poole, Randy Shoemake, Stefan Roastgen, Ernie Cancio, and David Riley. And then Donald Poole in 11th. Gene Moore from all the way up the back of the grid finishes in 12th. Our race's biggest mover? Yep, confirmed. Plus 14 for Gene Moore. JC Hay, then Richard Varley, Peter Hallstrom, Bob Kern, Russ Addy, Jerry Kerr, and Barry Hills, the last car on the lead lap. We saw problems for Louis Cannell, and he was a late race retirement, but still gets classified in 20th. Bob Cohen 21st, Ulf Olsen a lap down, Greg Garris a lap down, Joel Martin a lap down. Only one major retirement here, because Robert Love and Pierre Dionne still get classified 2 laps off the lead. It's Gary Bystrom, our race 1 winner, had some troubles here in race 2 and decided, do you know what? I've got better things to do than trundle around at the back, so he called it a day.
Yeah, I don't blame Gary really. He had that race win in race 1. Race 2, yeah, he made that mistake, ended up in the wall, knew that he couldn't get a chance of taking the victory off of Greenwood, and so he decided to park it, so it's understandable as that.
Yep, no doubt. So, who's going to stroll by our interview room? We didn't speak to Steve Greenwood after race 1. I'd hope we'd get to speak to him after race 2, but I don't see him around just yet. So let us jump to the second place man. Ragnar Wisloff will join us. Congratulations on second. I thought that's where you were going to finish in race 1. It wasn't to be, but you get good points in race 2.
Yes, well, thanks for that. Yeah, race 2 was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it? But this was better. But it's hard to beat Steve. He's very quick, so it was a bit, I guess, boring to watch.
Yeah, he got away on lap 1, and then it was kind of the last we really saw of him. We saw you battle with Russ. Gary, that's right, who ended up finishing, not finishing. And then I thought from second there you might be able to claw him back, but you just couldn't quite match it.
No, he was just too quick. So it's a good win for him. Well done to him. Winning by, what was it, 7 seconds, 8 seconds or so is quite, a different class. So well done to him.
And defending champ taking it easy this season, you told us. Is that still how it's going? Still just taking it cruisy, taking some weeks off?
Yes. So I think I've done half of the races so far, and the next 2 I will not do. But of course, when you get a chance to be on television, you want to come back. So well done.
Some people were born for the spotlight. Tell us about the track conditions out there, though, because we did see drivers struggling, lap 1 struggling at the end with understeer, oversteer, putting the power down.
Yeah, it's. I think it's. It was quite good. I didn't have any issues towards the end. I think the tires were nice and warm, but nothing worse than that. So I think the conditions were quite good. It's so nice to be back on a track which is wide and good to drive on. The tarmac here is a little more slippery than on some of the American tracks, but it's very good to have such a wide circuit to fight on.
Awesome. Well, you went from second on the grid backwards in race 1, from third on the grid up to second in race 2. And I think that is a great way to wrap up the night for you on the podium. Anyone you want to thank? Any parting words? Any words of wisdom for your adoring fans at RaceSpotTV?
Well, thank you for that. No, I'd like to thank the organizers for putting together this league for us and for allowing us to have such fun. A number of people do a lot of work to make sure that this runs as clockwork, and we're very grateful for that. And of course, for you guys to make such good commentary. first thing I'll do once I'm out of the seat now is go and have a look at YouTube.
Awesome. I'm always worried when people, thank us for our commentary when they haven't heard it yet. But hopefully you will enjoy it, and we trust you've enjoyed it previous times. Thanks, Ragnar. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for making the time.
Thank you, guys.
In pretty good spirits after that second race, I would say, Paul, and in pretty good spirits is, I hope, the man you're about to talk to.
Yeah, I would imagine that he's going to be in good spirits. Steve Greenwood, I said that race 1 was a complete write-off for you, but what a way to round off with race 2, just with a dominant victory here.
Can you just wait 1 minute? I'm really sorry, but I can't hear you.
Oh, wonderful! That's it's always a good start to an interview when the interviewee can't hear us. So hopefully that can get sorted out for him, Stephen. There, so let us know when you've got a copy of us, and we should be able to speak to you. See, David, these are the challenges of live broadcasting right now. Is audio issues always seem to be the case, don't they, David?
No doubt, every time without fail, set your watch to it.
I don't think it's your problem. I think that's a Microsoft update problem.
Have you got us now, though, Steve?
I have, yes.
Wonderful. Right, okay, so take 2. Don't worry, we'll edit this out. So I said race 1 was a complete write-off for you, but what a way to turn it around with race 2 with a dominant victory here today.
Yes, it was a shame that, because I feel as if I could have won them both, which would have stopped somebody else getting the full points at least. But hey, that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Well, that's it. If is the biggest word in motorsport, isn't it? So, but I mean, there was very little you could have done about that race 1 incident. You unfortunately getting caught up with a car coming out of the pits. But race 2, then, I mean, what is it about this circuit? Because you just seem to be on another level compared to pretty much everyone on the grid here.
I honestly don't know. I think I got a decent start, and by the look of it, they were battling, which of course doesn't help. And I was watching a bit of your broadcast on the first race. I watched the end of the race, and they seemed to be fighting through the field instead of trying to sort of catch the guys in front of them. So perhaps it was that. I don't know. I'd have to watch the replay really, but yeah, I mean it was quite slippy actually today. It was. I mean, we always run in the same weather settings, but today it seemed greasy somehow.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that you wanted to stop Gary Byström getting the full points, and so at least with you getting the win here in the second race, you've negated that one. But how has your season been so far? Because of course we're at the halfway point of the championship. How do you feel it's been going for yourself?
Reasonable. Nothing fantastic. I fall down with the oval racing. I haven't got a clue what to do on an oval really, and I've yet to get a decent result on one of those. So I'm hoping to get enough points without having to do the second one. So we'll see.
Well, this is it. And again, it's one of the benefits of the series is not only is it the best result from your week, it's also 2 drop scores as well for you. So your 2 worst results do get taken off for the final championship standing. So you never know. Things might turn out your way. But before we let you go, Steve, any final thoughts from today's racing?
No, I'm glad Paul got on the podium on the second race, which will keep us ahead in the team championship. So well pleased with that result. Apart from that, thanks to yourselves and thanks to the admins who put the races on for us.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and spending the time to speak to us, and all the best for the rest of the season. We'll see you at the end of the season.
Yeah, thanks very much.
There we go then. Steve Greenwood, you race winner from race 2 there, David, and he almost sounded gutted, even though he'd won the second race there.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from some of the drivers after the races, feel their joy or their frustrations, and also get a little bit of an insight into what it is like behind the wheel. But that will be all from this round of 60 plus racing adventures from the Hockenheimring. In the schedule, we will be broadcasting the season finale a little bit later in the season. What is that, about still 6 weeks away or so? Well, hey, here's the schedule. They go to Mosport next week, then the Chicago Street Circuit. That one will be interesting. Monza, always a delight. I think that'll suit. Wisloff said he liked the Grand Prix style circuits, the more wide open ones. Monza is definitely that. A lot of time is spent wide open with the throttle, and Montreal for round 10. Gateway, or Worldwide Technology Raceway as it's known in the biz, in round 11, and then 1st of September for the Nordschleife at the championship finale. That's when you'll find us here on RaceSpot with live coverage to cover all that action and crown a champion. My goodness, September already. How the year flies by. But from David Haynes, that's me, and Paul Smith alongside me, who is also doing the production. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to follow RaceSpot on all of our various platforms, whether you've been watching on YouTube or on any other of our platforms. You can see the handles down there. We always appreciate you following us for all of the global sim racing action that we cover. But 60 plus racing adventures will return September 1st. We look forward to seeing you then.